Hello and welcome to the Story Behind the Stories, your weekly look at the pages of the Neepawa Banner Press. I'm Eoin Devereux, the news and sports reporter with the Banner Press, thanking you for taking a little bit of your time and spending it right here with us. I'm joined this week by Casper Wehrhahn. Casper, good to have you here as always.
Good to be back, and thanks for having me here again.
All right, and we got a lot to talk about this week, and it feels a little bit different to a degree because we have a lot to talk about events in a wide variety of communities within our readership area that people were able to get out there and enjoy a little bit of that summer. And it feels like it's been forever since we've been able to cover those types of events. We did it safely, mind you, of course, but we still enjoyed being able to be out and about in that manner. And one that I didn't get to cover, Casper, you didn't get to cover it either. Kira Patterson got the opportunity and the honor to be able to cover the event right on our front page. And it looked unbelievably fun. And it was down in Carberry. Carberry had an opportunity to, the Ag Society of Carberry was able to put together an event. It took place over 2 days, despite a little bit of rain hitting them on there. Sort of messing up their schedules a little bit, their family fun days, which involved a whole bunch of activities, but the showcase for the whole thing was really their rodeo style, chuck wagon style events. And Kira was able to get some great pictures on that, and it really looked like it was a whole heck of a lot of fun. And I don't usually go in for rodeos. Surprise, surprise, I'm not a rodeo guy, but it still looked pretty darn unbelievable, I thought.
Yeah, it looks like it was a lot of fun, and it must have been because on the Saturday it brought in about 700 people, and then Sunday it brought in about 300 to 400. So a lot of people came out to check that out, and just from the pictures it looked like everybody had a blast. There's some kids jumping off and around on some inflatable play structures and all sorts of things. So definitely a good time over in Carberry for sure.
That's right. Kira had an opportunity to check things out and speak with the Ag Society president, Alan Christensen, about some of the festivities and trying to put it all together. And he talked about just the fact that it was a little pent up. Everybody was feeling a little bit anxious, and they really enjoyed the opportunity to get out there and have a little bit of fun like this. And it's amazing how you don't realize how much you miss something until you don't have the ability to do something. And this is an example of that. We haven't had for about 16, 18 months the opportunity to be able to do things like this. And now, because a majority of people in Manitoba are vaccinated, because a majority of people in Manitoba are still looking after themselves in terms of social distancing, in terms of wearing a mask, we're able to sort of live under the circumstances that we're under. Not everybody's able to do that, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later in the show. But let's start off on a fun note and talk about off to the races in Carberry. Kira had the chance to go down there. It looked like a whole heck of a lot of fun. You can see some of that information, and you can read a little bit about it right on our front page, and it carries over onto page A20. We're a two-section paper. Seems like we're always a two-section paper now, or it feels that way.
Yeah, it seems like that a lot lately for sure.
Yeah, but that's what's on our A section. And even though we don't got on our list to talk about on the front page as well, just a quick write-up about Kelvin Gertzen, who was named the interim leader of the Progressive Conservative Party and is officially our new premier for the next 2 months. So just a quick write-up on that. We wanted to sort of share that information as well. If you haven't heard it on the radio, or if you haven't seen it on the TV news, if you're curious, where's Brian? Brian's gone. Brian stepped down. No matter what your opinions are, whether you thought he did a commendable job, whether you thought he did a terrible job, he stepped up. He did what he thought was right. Whether you think it was right, whether you don't think it was right when it comes to policy, whether it comes to COVID, that's up to your own discretions. But you got to thank any individual for their public service. and Kelvin, from all the bits and pieces I've heard from Ken Waddell, who knows him to a degree, I don't know Kelvin all that well, but he says he's a good guy, he's stand-up guy, and I guess we'll find out in the next 2 months. He's already made a big difference there, Casper, with Bill 64, for example, the education bill. Essentially, he first hour or so on the job as premier wiped that and several other bills right off the table.
Okay. Yeah, I know that was a big one that people weren't fond of, for sure. Because that was, they were going to change it so that there was like a sort of parent council. Essentially,
they were amalgamating all the power into Winnipeg. So school divisions here, for example, Turtle Mountain, Rolling River, they would not have the authority or the ability to make their own decisions. And that was a big one, because that was one, no matter whether you lean left, whether you lean right, whether you're straight down the middle, everybody seemed to be a little iffy on that. So that's something we're going to be talking about in a future edition, I'm sure, flushing that out a little bit more. But just wanted to touch base on Gertsen and him stepping into power, as it were. Let's get back to a little bit of fun. And we had some fun days in Carberry. Minnedosa had some fun days of their own as well. Got to thank John Drinkwater for getting some of these pictures. I had an opportunity to go there myself, Casper, for a little bit and check it out. And it was, I got to admit, it was all right. I went to the arts and crafts sort of sale. They had vegetables. They were giving away. One booth gave away free sunflowers to everybody.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Like, I couldn't believe it. It was like, why aren't you even charging $1 for these types of things? It's like, no, they were giving them all away, and people were just scooping them right up.
Wow.
Yep, no, and it was a lot of fun. And John got some pictures as well, as you can see on the page there, of the Children's Parade. And you can find that as well on page A10 of the Banner Press. If you want to get a closer look at it, you're going to have to pick up a hard copy or check it out on mywestmen.ca. I mean, it's so much, it's great to see Carberry, Minnedosa doing all this fun stuff. I've heard Brandon as well has brought in a carnival type thing for this weekend. And I hate to say it, but it's like, oh God, what's Neepawa doing?
What are we doing here? What's going on?
But then at the same time, I don't know if I want to do all that work. That sounds like hard work.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, that's great to be able to share those stories, like Carberry and Minnedosa stories, because even though we're the Neepawa Banner and Press, we do like to see ourselves as the regional paper, so we like to touch base with all the different communities. And sometimes other communities like to touch base with us. Great sometimes, other times, well, it's up to you, your perspective on that. We had our own gathering, social gathering recently. There were no balloons involved, none that I saw.
Yeah, none that we saw.
No, but there were signs. There was a protest, a rally, however you'd like to sort of phrase it, recently on September 1st at the Neepawa Courthouse. There were people, roughly, my estimate was between about 85 and 100 people were there protesting the provincial government's regulations on the unvaccinated. If you're unfamiliar, as of September 3rd, unvaccinated individuals will not be able to go and attend certain social events. Art galleries, movie theaters, sporting events. There are some people who are upset about that. The argument is that it infringes on free association and that it's a slippery slope, which technically that is true, but at the same time others on the other side argue the point of you need to protect the needs of the many outweigh sometimes the needs of the few. This is both sides of the coin are, you're going to get into an argument essentially one way or the other with somebody, I am sure, about something like this. But in terms of the protest, it was peaceful. There, had an opportunity, about a half hour. It was organized through social media. That can turn into a hornet's nest real quick, but everybody there whether you were wearing a mask or whether you weren't wearing a mask, everybody was respectful of everyone else. And looking at the federal election, we need a lot more of that from time to time. But it's, like I said, it's hard to stay partial sometimes on a tough thing like this, isn't it?
Yeah, this is one that I'll admit that none of the staff in the office really wanted to to see succeed, just because of the nature of it. Glad it went over smoothly. Sad to see the numbers were what they were, but also glad it wasn't that, well, bigger than it was. But it was definitely I'll say far right leaning gathering, because there were People's Party of Canada signs, and that's the furthest right you can get. I only saw one person wearing a mask too.
Yeah. And let me cut you off just for 1 second here, Casper. And I want everyone to understand this. The story behind the stories is about our representation, our thoughts on this. Our thoughts here on this show, they do not personally represent the Neepawa Banner Press. They do not represent NACTV. And they might not represent you. These are just our thoughts off the top of our head here. So just want to share that. And we want to share your thoughts on that as well. And this is just our mindset here. I agree with you on this, Casper. And I hate to say it, but part of it, 50% of it is obviously the vaccination issue. But the other 50% of it for me was putting Neepawa in a bad light. I didn't want Neepawa to be looked at on a national level the same way a lot of people are looking at Winkler right now.
Yeah.
There were 1,000 people in Winkler recently, and Winkler just looked bad from it. And I didn't want Neepawa to have that same thing, because even though I'm sorry to monopolize this, but let me just get this one other point out.
No,
even though we know what Neepawa is, to the outside, Neepawa is known for, unfortunately, the name of the team for a long time, racial slurs put all over on Canada Day from a few years back, and there was another incident. That's, unfortunately, people who don't know Neepawa think that's Neepawa, and that's not true. So that worried me that Neepawa would be painted in a bad light. But again, the people there, they were respectful, they were getting their point across, and even though I might not agree 100% personally with them, I agree with their right to be able to do that and to be able to say these types of things. And I'm sorry to monopolize that. Let me throw it back to you.
No, you're good. I know in the office discussion too about this, one of the things that has been kind of being said about the topic of the rally in general is that the vaccine cards are, an invasion of privacy because it's very personal. But the thing with that is that when you have the card and it gets scanned, it's not showing any personal information. All it shows is your name and you've been vaccinated. That's it. You give more personal information showing your ID to an officer or a bartender or a grocery store person, because that's got your birth date, your address, all that stuff on it. This is probably one of the least personal documents you can have. And these are extenuating circumstances as well. Like, this is a virus that does kill people. We don't know much about it. And it spreads from person to person. So it's completely understandable, to me anyway, that things like this would come into play. And it didn't come out of the blue either. At least I don't think it did. I'm pretty sure it was from the very beginning something that was being considered, and that the cards were going to be used for was making sure that if you're going to a certain space, if it came to that you were double vaccinated. So it's not out of the left field. Speaking
to one or two people at the protest as well, they talked about the fact that in their mind that the goalposts on this kept getting moved more and more. The quote that a year ago the hubbub was that there would be no vaccine passports, and I do remember a federal politician saying something like that. I don't remember the name of the federal politician right now, but that's neither here nor there on that. Their argument is that, where does this slippery slope stop? One day this is okay, and then the next day this isn't okay, and then the next day you can't do this, you can't do this. I'm not saying I agree 100%. I can see their perspective on that. I'm not 100% sure whether it's the clear and total picture, but I can see why they might think that. I'm being too much of a politician here, quite honestly, but that's part of it as well. Unfortunately, there's some events and sometimes we cover things that we don't agree with 100%, but we have got to be as impartial as possible. We have got to give them the same fair shake that we would with something that we agree with. And that's the trick sometimes. And that's something that some media, especially in the US, don't seem to be able to do anymore. And that's why media really has such a bad rap with a lot of people now, is because more often than not, the media is putting too much of their own opinion into it. The difference being, of course, that this is about us sharing some of the background, sharing our opinions in that way. What we do here on this show, we would never do on the page, because that is unfair to the people we are talking to, and it is unfair to the reader. But this isn't a news show, this is an opinion show, which, tomato for some people, but, All right, I think I can get off my soapbox here. Is there anything else you wanted to add about that?
No, not that I can think of at the moment, no.
No, it's one of those things of everybody's got an opinion, so.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's plenty more, but we've gone on about it for a while.
And if you want to share your opinion, whether you agree or disagree, you can do that. You have that right. You can contact us, and I'll give the information later on, but you'll see it here as well. news@neepawabanner.com. We want to hear your opinion, even if you agree, even if you disagree. That's important. We get people who disagree with us all the time. We try and get as many of those letters in as we can. But yeah, we'll move on. Well, let's move on to something a little more lighthearted again. We started off with a couple lighthearted stories, Casper. Then we got dark. We got gritty for a minute.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna get light and fluffy again, and we're gonna do it with some really nice work that was done by a few volunteers and members of the Neepawa Golf and Country Club. If you remember, last year the country club got hit with that flood. A lot of the course was damaged. But the grounds crew and the staff really put in an excellent job of getting it back up to snuff. And that was noticed by a lot of people, including the members, and a few individuals rallied together and they decided, you know what, we want to do something special for the golf course. So they purchased these new tee box markers. Essentially, they're the colorful little things you see in the tee box when you're about to hit the ball. Whenever I golf, when I'm about to hit the ball, slicing it left into the trees. Those are those beautiful little things you'll see just right there. And they made a few metal ones there for every single. And those things are pricey, and I saw them. They're fair size. It's kind of nice that, those are the little things I think that sometimes maybe people take for granted that just really up an entire experience, whether you're into sports, whether you're into art or whatever, I think.
Yeah, it helps make things look nicer and just, spruces things up a bit, makes the experience feel good.
Yep. And those things were pricey as well. Every single one of them was like metal. So they did a bunch of work on that, and it was like, holy cow. The Neepawa Golf and Country Club was always classy, but now it looks a little extra classy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in perfect timing as well, because we had an event, the Interclub Golf Championship was held on August 31st. Essentially, every single member club of Golf Manitoba was able to send about 4 people, and they worked as a team. And the 3 best scores of those 4 would be tallied up, and the winning clubs would win prizes, and then the individual with the best score as well would be singled out. So it was really interesting. It's the second major event, Casper, from Golf Manitoba that Neepawa has been able to host this year. They're also able to host the Provincial Amateur Championship, which was a big deal, and this was a relatively big deal as well. It's nice to know that Neepawa is regarded so highly, I think.
Yeah, it's nice to see these things going on in Neepawa, especially something big like this, and to see it, go off so well.
Yep, because something like this, it's about 50 different individuals that came here. And of course, they were required to be vaccinated, fully vaccinated. There were individuals that had to be turned away because they didn't have their vaccination proof or they weren't completely vaccinated. So that was the case. Every single individual who showed up from Winnipeg, from Brandon, from DePaul, from Winkler, from Steinbach, they were 100% vaccinated and confirmed because, I know some people get a little iffy when they see like an Alberta license plate driving through nowadays or a Saskatchewan license plate driving through. But all these individuals, they were here, they were vaccinated, they had a great time. So it was good to see. We are talking a whole heck of a lot of sports. Sports is a thing again.
Yeah, it seems to be. And you've got golf and, now you have some stuff to do with hockey too.
Yep. Neepawa Titans training camp is underway right now. I'm just going to talk really quick about that. It's on the go. Very much looking forward to seeing some hockey on the ice. We're going to bore the heck out of you over the next few months with hockey, so don't worry about that. We'll touch on it a little bit more. I want to get on to this other thing. Casper, you got a story on here about another opening that is going to be occurring. And this one, above all right now, I am so happy to hear that they're going to be able to get back up and operational again.
Yeah, this is definitely an important opening for sure. The Neepawa Legion, branch number 23, is going to be opening on September 7th. That's when they'll start being open again with their new hours, which are on page A2. So be sure to take a look at that. But they've been closed since, I think, November 12th it was last year. Haven't been open since. They've been closed the whole time. So it has been hard on them financially. We didn't get into numbers, but they, at the very least, were able to get support from the government in terms of helping to pay bills. So that was good, but they're very much looking forward to being open. And they had a bit of surprise as well when they were closed. They, by anonymous drop-off to one of the Legion members, actually received a handcrafted, wood-carved statue that's very beautiful. There's a photo on the page there. Be sure to look at it because it's just beautiful. But is made into the shape of a cross with a big poppy on the front, and it's got a helmet on the top. And it's wood burned, painted, and it has an inscription on there that said, "Lest we forget." They're very appreciated of that, and they're trying to decide on a good spot for that right now. They don't have a spot set up yet, but they're considering all their options.
That is really nice. The donation is really nice. And the support that they've received from the government helped them out to a degree. But it's still something, I think, as a community, I think we need to step up and help them in their time of need more than ever right now. So you said it was the 7th that it was going to be reopening?
Yep, September 7th. And they're going to have, of course, all of their public health guidelines in place. So you will have to be double vaccinated. They're going to be checking for that. And the hall will be available for rent now as well, which is a big thing for them because people can use it for events and whatnot. So that'll be very good. But yeah, you can check out all the restrictions and whatnot on that page as well. But yeah, definitely, do whatever you can to help the Legion out because, they really need the support for sure.
Even before COVID-19 occurred, a lot of Legions throughout Canada were having difficult times. I mean, their membership were slowly aging out. So supports were getting measly for a lot of them. and then the situation with COVID-19 just worsened things for a lot of them. So any and all support you can do for your local Legion, whether you're in Neepawa or another community, please step up. It's greatly appreciated. All right, let's get back over into some other items of note. Fresh Mart, you may know it as Shop Easy. It was known as Shop Easy for so long, but now it's known as Fresh Mart here in Neepawa. They recently celebrated a very special occasion. The Rowe family, who have operated it for 25 plus years, celebrating a special anniversary, a special celebration. They purchased the building, the facility, the store in 1996, and they're celebrating 25 years of that right now. They've had some ups, they've had some downs, they've had some good times, and they've had some hardships, much like any business. To be able to go through 25 years like that and continue to be supported by new generations of loyal customers, that means something. That shows they're doing something right. And I'll say, Casper, not only because Fresh Mart is relatively close to us, I'll usually go get some lunch or a snack or something from there. A lot of us here at the office do. But the one thing I notice about them more than anything, and this isn't to slag on any of the other groceries, but I notice each and every time you walk up there, if there's one or two people up there, like that, they open up another till. It's those little things that you notice that make a big difference, and that makes a big difference for me. What about your thoughts? I mean, you do any of your shopping there? I know you have family who work somewhere else, but you know, what are your thoughts?
Well, I haven't been there too often, but yeah, definitely the odd time that I am, it's always been a good experience. You know, like you said, if there's multiple people that are waiting for help, they're pretty quick to open a new till. So it helps you get in and out faster because, of course, people are going about their days, you know, quick lunch before you go back to work and whatnot. So,
yep.
Yeah, it's always been pretty good. And from a historical perspective as well, it's just really neat to see this store keep going. It used to be a Williams Tomboy,
That's
I
right.
believe. Yeah.
No, it is. And again, that was the funny thing. They were saying that everybody just got used to calling it Shop Easy as opposed to Williams Tomboy, and then they changed the name to Fresh Mart. So I guess 25 years from now, we'll check in again and see how entrenched Fresh Mart is in the community. All right, before we let you go for another week, just want to share some details on Trucking Week, our special feature this week, 8 pages on the trucking industry and the significance of it in Canada. It is so important to all of us. So I hope you take a few minutes for that. We put in a lot of effort on that for about a day, but you know, it was a lot of work for that one day that we put that together, and we're kind of proud of it. It's not our best, but we're doing all right with it. So you can check that out, and of course you can check out the entirety of the newspaper by going on to mywestman.ca or picking up a hard copy anywhere in and around Neepawa. So, Casper, thank you very much. I always appreciate you coming in on the show like this.
Absolutely. Always great to be here and sharing the stories behind the stories.
That's right. And we want to continue to share those stories with you each and every week. But to do that, we sometimes need some help. So if you have some story ideas, we always appreciate them. You can contact us either 476-3401, or you can call us or contact us via email at news@neepawabanner.com. Sports, as I said, is a thing, so you can contact us via sports@neepawabanner.com. We love to hear from you, whether you agree with us, whether you agree with what we have to say and what we put on the page or not, or again, any and all story ideas. Very much appreciated. We want to be your community paper, and that's got to be a partnership with the community. So if you have an idea, you want something on the pages, let us know. It's always great to be able to speak with you. So for Casper, I'm Eoin, and for the Neepawa Banner Press and ACTV, thank you very much for coming in and sharing with us the stories behind the stories.